Morning, team. This isn't coffee moaning. This is a news update. Dramatic Middle Eastern news, as you know, as a channel, we focus on Middle East issues, Gazan issues, the genocide. And we've woken up this morning to the news, and we've started early, but I wanted to give a half-hour notice so that the notification came up to some of you. And we've woken up to the astonishing news that the biggest warmonger on the planet, Benjamin Netanyahu, has launched an operation. And the Israelis are big on their operation names, aren't they? They had Operations Operation Gideon's Chariots to finalize a genocide. This is Operation Rising Lion, I believe. I presume Israel in that metaphor is the lion. And they are, in fact, only 14 minutes ago, by all accounts, Israel was still attacking Iranian military targets, nuclear targets. And so we're going to show you a few of the clips that have emerged overnight. Obviously, they've hit Tehran. They've killed two. I'm going to give you more of the detail in a minute. These are the headlines. They've killed two of the highest senior ranking members of the Iranian military or the Revolutionary Guard. They've killed several nuclear scientists. The spiritual head of Iran has used extraordinarily strong rhetoric to describe and condemn Israel's attack. Israel has essentially this morning flown jets over Iran and struck hundreds of times, and reports are suggesting that Israel was still attacking at 6:23. So it doesn't necessarily mean that this assault has stopped. In response, already we do know, and as I say, I'm going to give more detail in a minute, as we do know that over 100 drones are currently en route from Iran towards Israel. The IDF and the Israeli authorities have encouraged all civilians across Israel to take cover. So they're expecting a fulsome and complete response. Now, when this happened, I think this happened, was it October last year when this last happened? The shape of this was kind of similar, not even in terms of the weaponry used, the attack formation and structure, but also the fact that America very much telegraphed the fact that Israel could hit Iran in the 24 hours prior. And so I am going to get to where we can find perhaps the end of this conflict quite quickly. But I think just at this point, I think it's really important to say that if anyone had and has any doubt as to who the most senior warmonger in the Middle East is, regardless of what your opinions on Iran or the Iranian regime is, its proxies in Hezbollah and Hamas have been severely compromised. You can't in any way quantify the threat from the Houthis as sizable to the Israelis. So that existential threat that Netanyahu's government has forever wanted to suggest or promote and project out to the world, even that's a stretch now, especially as they're supported by, as we know, the West and their overindulgent parent, the United States of America. So he's provocatively attacked Iran. America had requested that they don't do this. Nuclear discussions were still ongoing between Iran and America. They were due to happen this weekend. So this is, to the extent that everything Israel does is an extension of American foreign policy. America is going to great lengths today to say we were not and are not part of this attack. And you could argue, as I was just saying, that in some regards, America was giving Iran the heads up in suggesting there could be an attack imminent. So if this follows the same structure as the last attack, the last tete-a-tete, the to and fro, we have the original attack by Israel, the aggressor in the region, the warmongering aggressor in the region, the one country that is punching every other country, compromising every other state, has a anti-Arab sensibility and is vicious, you have them provoking and starting something that not even at this point diplomatically, I mean, okay, behind the scenes, diplomatically, America doesn't want. So they've started this. Iran is firing over 100 drones towards Israel. Now, if this is like the last time, this will be an attempt to overwhelm Israel's Iron Dome. If they do overwhelm I doubt many of these drones will hit their targets. Drones were highly ineffective last time, and they won't be effective this time. But it's what comes after the drones. If the drones overwhelm the Iron Dome, which intercepts and shoots down all the drones, then it could be the ballistic missiles that follow from Iran that do the sort of the second punch, if you like. Now, I'm going to show you some clips just so that you can get a grasp on this. They're not in any particular order, but obviously this happened, the attack happened roughly 5 hours ago, around about 2:15, 2:30, we became aware of it. Iran has been asking for this for a long time. I'm no fan of Israel at all, but Iran definitely needs to be civilized. That's really civilized. So you're coming from a position of believing that has Israel behaved in a civilized fashion in Gaza? Is Israel the self-anointed, self-appointed police? I mean, I want to get on board with this argument of Israel has nuclear weapons. No one seems to be concerned about that. And yet Israel is the country that is irrationally destroying an entire nation and committing a genocide. But we're not to be concerned about them having nuclear weapons, but we are concerned about, at this stage, Iran having nuclear power. I think it's deeply hypocritical. I thought the idea of a nuclear deterrent, if we're to believe the West and we're to believe America and Russia and every state that has nuclear weaponry, I thought the idea of a nuclear deterrent was everyone having one deters everyone. So it strikes me that really what Israel actually wants and what America wants is an unequal playing field so that they can potentially, like the colonial settlers they are, keep control of the Middle East. So I think the word civilized is possibly the wrong word there. Here's some footage from overnight. What's particularly worrying is that Israel had also hit residential buildings.
ساعت الان 3:37 ورودی فرحزاده پایین. بالش کاملا تخریب شده و سوخته. پایینش
So this is the aftermath of
مؤثر هست که یکی از اونها در خلال صحبت شما تصاویر نتنز رو هم بینندگان زنده دارن مشاهده میکنن و دود ناشی از انفجاری که به نظر میرسه دقایقی پیش.
Radiation from any of these sites yet, so no meaningful damage has been done. These are the first images coming out. Damage of the building. They haven't just struck military targets. Presumably, these will be the areas in which some of the nuclear scientists were based. Maybe nuclear scientists have been taken out. Revolutionary Guard members have been taken out. The reason they didn't want Iran to have one is because they know the lunatics in the Knesset will use one first. Well, then don't let Israel have one. Who allowed Israel to get nuclear weapons? That's the concern, isn't it? This is against finally
3:37 دقیقه ورودی فرحزاده پایین.
Turn the volume down on this just for a moment. Israel is only doing this now because it knows Iran won't use nuclear weapons while Trump is in the White House. Do they know that? Do they know that? Israel stole theirs. Wow. A little bit like they steal land. Can I ask, does Israel ever... Does Israel seems to be only about stealing land, stealing homes, stealing farms, stealing businesses, stealing nuclear weapons too. They stole the nuclear weapons too. Okay, well, let's step through what we know about this overnight assault. So in the latest news, what we do know is 100 drones have been launched from Iran towards Israel. The International Atomic Energy Agency has said after contact with Iran that the Isfahan nuclear site has not been impacted by Israel. Do you remember? Let's just keep remembering the contrast and the contradictions here. Do you remember the absolute correct clamoring fear and worry when Putin was took control of and potentially damaged the nuclear reactor in Ukraine? I forget the name of it, but it was a particularly, I can't remember, it had a sort of quite a famous name. But there was the nuclear site. The rest of the world was on a knife edge. Netanyahu fires missiles and drops bombs on nuclear sites in Iran, and everyone's kind of like, oh, we need to show restraint. Remember the manipulation of the mainstream media. Just be mindful of how we're going to have this sort of the belly of this conflict tickled in a fashion that legitimizes Israel's warmongering hysteria and absolutely Netanyahu's desire to get out of a legal bind, a personal legal bind. He doesn't want to go to prison. He doesn't want to be done for corruption and fraud that's being brought against him. Let's not forget, he felt so peaky and under the weather in court yesterday or the day before. They had to stop proceedings because he wasn't feeling well enough, because perhaps he was thinking, I'm going to have to declare one of the biggest or start one of the biggest wars in Middle Eastern history just to get out of having been a very naughty boy. Netanyahu says Israel targeted Iran's nuclear and military sites. Why are we seeing residential areas attacked? Yeah, well, this is a good question. This is possibly why, in response, Iran issuing warnings to the civilian population of Israel. Interesting for the Israelis now to have some sense of what it means to be, to be potentially overwhelmed by excessive force, isn't it? I mean, I can't believe that this decision by Netanyahu is going to float the boat of most Israelis. Surely this is a step too far, even for those who've supported the genocide of, and I don't know if anyone's seen the Zone of Interest, but if I see any more images of Israelis holidaying on beaches whilst just 2 or 3 miles away, Palestinians are dying and being shot in a really hideous, grisly restaging of Squid Games and the Hunger Games in Gaza. That contrast is exactly like the Zone of Interest, the film in which the head of the Nazis resided alongside Auschwitz. How ordinary Israelis and how Israelis can holiday and live knowing that this absolute atrocity is happening just over the fence is shocking. It's absolutely shocking. Tywin Lannister, you're absolutely right. Israel can do whatever they want and never be held accountable thanks to the US unconditional support. I'm going to read you Starmer's quote. Zaporizhzhia. Thank you. That was the nuclear site. But never fear. Oh, yeah. Iran says Israel's deadly attacks on Friday have underscored our need to advance uranium enrichment and missile capabilities. One should not speak to such a predatory regime except in the language of power. The world now better understands Iran's insistence on the right to enrichment, nuclear technology, and missile power. Now, forgetting the rights and wrongs of the Iranian state, there's a kind of logic in what he's saying there. I mean, if you're going to be attacked like this, and if you know that Israel wants you wiped, I mean, we hear a lot about how, Iran and everyone doesn't want Israel to exist. No, what they don't want is settler colonialist white supremacists stealing land on a constant basis and enacting an apartheid in the middle of the Middle East. That's what they don't want. Some then tip into wanting the Israeli state not to exist, but that is an unfortunate byproduct of you being in the middle of the Middle East and treating everyone like shit, to be brutally honest with you. But the language here of Keir Starmer is quite choice. Starmer has requested, what does he say? Starmer, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, the man who constantly demands change. This is preposterous. It is not a genocide. It's a pot. It's a pot of F-35. We can't do anything about that pot. He says all parties should step back and reduce tensions urgently. All parties, he urges, to step back and reduce tensions urgently. He says this is the bit that really gets me. Now is the time for restraint, calm, and a return to diplomacy. This is the man who refuses to comment on the finer details of the genocide that his government is tacitly and directly supporting. Let's not forget, we're training IDF troops in this country, guys. Yep, if you didn't know it, we are training genocidal, selfie-taking IDF soldiers in this country as we speak. Starmer is asking for restraint from all sides. I tell you what, Mr. Starmer, the one individual who needs to, Iran has zero interest in a conflict. Its economics are fucked. It has civil unrest. It has an unequal society. It has all its own issues. It has its own human. We're not sitting here promoting Iran as some absolute kind of paragon of virtue. But they don't want a war. They don't want a war. So urging restraint, Mr. Starmer, this should be aimed at one individual and one individual only. Netanyahu, because what's going to happen in the Western press today, and that's why we wanted to go live now, what you're going to see in the headlines is a slow, not necessarily slow, but a definitive attempt to equalize things so that we have parity between both sides. Everyone in the West, supporters and allies of Israel, are going to seek to normalize what Netanyahu's done with the famous expression, get ready for it, guys, self-defense. It's the only nation in the world that commits acts of atrocity and directly inflammatory military operations in an aggressive, attacking fashion that then turns around to the rest of the world, wringing its hands, going, it's self-defense, it's self-defense. And then they're supported by the West. So be careful. When he says all sides show restraint, if you had urged, if any of the West had had any capacity or compulsion to sanction Israel directly for its aggressions in Gaza, that might have encouraged restraint. Look, HMM, this isn't about attacking Iran. I'm sitting here, I'm probably the only channel here who's going to be arguing Iran's corner. So you can calm down a little bit there. We can't pretend that as a state, it doesn't have its, every state has issues. But the point I'm trying to make is, and it's a really important point, is that Israel is looking to the West, it's looking to our leaders to issue public statements like, will all sides show restraint, when the only individual in the Middle East showing no restraint whatsoever is Benjamin Netanyahu. He is a warmonger, he is a dictator, he is a man in a hole who is desperate to get out of that hole in terms of his own personal legal liabilities around corruption charges, and he's willing to take the entire Middle East. He's okay, HMM, no worries. He's willing to take the entire Middle East down the plug hole with him. And there are enough people in America. There are plenty. I would say Trump is one of those who doesn't want to be dragged into a conflict, but there are plenty around him that want America dragged into this conflict. And if America is dragged in, we are once again, can you believe this? Once again, courtesy of Netanyahu, dragged into a potential regime change conflict in the Middle East. Who the fuck are we? Who the fuck are we? Gary Steps, you're out of the room. Goodbye, mate. Who are we to go plowing around the planet like this still? So watch it. When you hear these meaningless hand-wringing, everyone in the world must please, all sides, please show restraint. It sounds like he's talking about fucking the doors closing on the fucking underground. Yeah. Show restraint. Why has the West not instructed, asked, demanded, sanctioned, implemented restraint from Netanyahu 20 months ago? 20 months ago. It's 9 a.m. What time was this? So no, it's 10 a.m. now in Tehran. 100 drones are en route. British Foreign Secretary David Lammy. Guess what word David Lammy, our Foreign Secretary, has used? These guys earn they don't earn a lot of money, but they earn enough money. These guys are responsible for our country. Guess what word David Lammy has used? Come on. It's a word we've heard before. It's a word we're used to hearing dribble from his and that absolute gimp of a prime minister to Keir Starmer's mouth. He's concerned. When have we heard that before? British Foreign Secretary David Lammy said he was concerned to learn of Israeli strikes targeting Iran's nuclear program. Remember, let's keep reminding ourselves when Russia drove tanks and trucks onto the nuclear site in Ukraine, the stock markets plummeted, the world went into a tailspin, rightly so. As we thought, fucking hell, it could be, Israel attacks directly nuclear sites. You've got to show restraint. The language is shocking. The language is double standards. Israel has to have something, if not specifically on Starmer. Israel, like the Epstein files, must have something so profoundly compromising on our entire establishment that whoever gets into power is too petrified to do anything about it. So the British Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, I'm concerned. Stability in the Middle East is vital for global security. Toffee could say that. My dog Toffee could say these words. These words are meaningless. We have had enough of our leaders trotting out rhetoric that is non-specific and achieves nothing. This is a dangerous moment, and I urge all parties to show restraint. Sorry, there's one individual in all of this that needs to show restraint. Netanyahu. Airlines have been cleared out of the airspace over Israel, Iran, and Iraq, and Jordan. Nadia's family in Jordan, currently incredibly vulnerable for anyone living in the nation. If you wonder why we have skin in the game, it's because my father-in-law is Jordanian. My father-in-law comes from a Bedouin family that roamed Palestine for centuries. This is part of our lives. Jordan, we have extended family in Jordan, could get caught up in nuclear fallout. Reuters is reporting Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion Airport, an absolutely monstrous supremacist. Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion Airport closed until further notice, and Israel's air defense units on high alert for possible retaliatory strikes. And you bet your bottom dollar, as soon as those Iranian drones are in Israeli airspace, the characterization will be it will be a rapid attempt to characterize Iran as the aggressor in this conflict. And I'm sorry, as we understood it earlier today, forgetting everything let's just forget history like you can in the region, not. But this weekend, Iran, in good faith, was heading to Oman with America to continue their discussions. Andrew Larison, nobody called for restraint from Israel after October the 7th. No, Israel had the empathy and sympathy of the world for, let's say, a 48-hour harsh response. Then they lost that empathy and that sympathy. Iran has been attacked, and now there's call for restraint. Can you please talk to people about the double standards, the media manipulation? Because as those drones hit, bet your bottom dollar that we just have generic numbers of deaths, bar the head of the Revolutionary Guard in Iran. But if one hair on one head of one Israeli gets hit, it will be infinitely more important than any other infidel, in inverted commas. Ellen, give us a little bit more detail on what you're trying to say. Israeli flag carrier El Al Airlines has suspended flights to and from Israel. Iranian airspace has been closed until further notice, according to state media. Air India, which overflies Iran for European and North American flights, has said several flights are being diverted. Let's have a look at this latest update coming in. Agence France Presse, French media agency, has quoted local media naming 6 nuclear scientists that have been killed in Israel's attack on Iran. I won't read all of their names, but 6 nuclear scientists have been martyred in Israel's attack. What else have we got? All we know at the moment is that 100 drones are en route towards Israel. Let's just update this feed. Israel has assassinated the head of Iran's armed forces as it carries out what it describes as a preemptive strike. There you go, preemptive. Preemptive strike on the regime's nuclear program. Preemptive. The last thing Israel wanted was any kind of brokered deal between Trump and Iran. Netanyahu, I'm now going to invoke that incredibly sophisticated film, Wicked. And the premise behind Wicked, there's a brilliant line in it that speaks to this generation and the ages, across the ages, in fact. 100 drones flying to Israel right now. They're due to impact in about 4 hours. And they're going to be easily dealt with by the Iron Dome. It's what follows the Israeli population should be more concerned about. Ballistic missiles generally follow the drones, clever Trevor. But in Wicked, they say everyone needs an enemy. Remember that. Everyone needs an enemy. And if Iran had managed to broker any kind of deal with America that allowed it to in any way enrich uranium, ecologists, environmentalists should be chomping at the bit and excited about the prospect of a country turning towards nuclear energy. Nuclear energy is becoming, or is beginning to emerge as possibly one of the cleanest forms of energy. So Iran at that point, and of course the question mark was, were they really? To what extent did they need? Are they saying this? So we're not under any illusions. But as Iran have said this morning, when you've got a neighbor like Israel in the region, or a hostile state like Israel, maybe everyone might understand why we need to kind of mobilize a slightly stronger defense and more robust defense system. Any defense of Iran is just woke rubbish, says Alison Yu. Come on then, give us more. I presume you're defending Israel in this, are you? The sensible streamer. Israel's leader, Netanyahu, the biggest warmonger in the Middle East, says Iran wants nukes just to kill Israelis. This is fear talking, not reason. There is no proof. Why would Iran want mutual destruction? This is utter nonsense. This is utter nonsense. This is classic. This is like the bully, and we've used the analogy many times. This is the bully in the playground. Their time has come. Everyone in the playground's gone. He's really fucking horrible. We don't like him. Tell him to fuck off. Put him in detention. We can't stand him. And now, because everyone doesn't like him, they're blaming everyone else. And they're going, he wants to hurt me. No one's interested. No one is interested. I'm telling you right now, whoever said defense of Iran is woke, Israel is the biggest snowflakey nation on the planet. I'm telling you that right now. They've attacked Iran because they don't want Iran and America to broker a deal, because Netanyahu is in a legal funk. He needs war to maintain his fragile leadership of his country, and he wants control, and he wants every other nation in the Middle Eastern region on their knees and compromised, so that really, over time, the greater Israel project can continue. Everyone talks about places like Iran not wanting Israel to exist. Israel doesn't want Muslim nations to exist. We have, there were extremists in Netanyahu's government who, we talk about them as extremists in his government, and that means his government is extremist. That are promoting a expansionist policy in the West Bank, in Gaza, in Syria, And no doubt eventually again in Egypt and saying, you know, they just, Alison Yu, Iran is anti-Semitic, not because of the guy. Iran doesn't like, look, there will be anti-Semites in Iran, but what about Israel's anti-Muslim? Why is that not as equivalent? So come on, Alison Yu, how pro-Muslim is Netanyahu and his government? How pro-Gaza is Netanyahu and his government? How pro-Iran? I don't think he wants them to exist. It's a two-way street. It's a two-way street. You can't just keep pointing the finger. I'm sorry, you just can't. You can't do that. Iran has a Jewish population that repeatedly, look, my father-in-law remembers the creation of the state of Israel. He remembers as a young boy his Arab families and community trusting that these people coming in would live alongside them happily. This narrative of hostility towards the Jews is not a hostility towards the Jews. What's happened is it spills into anti-Semitism for some, but it is a hostility based on a distaste for colonial settlers. He who cast the first stone Luna loves Lucky. Israel has given up land to have peace from the Muslims. Really? Explore your history in a little bit more detail. How do you explain the settlements? Is that giving up land? Is that giving up land? How do you explain the fact that Israel controls 2/3 now of the Gaza Strip? Is that giving up land? What about the Golan Heights and their encroachment on Syria? Is that giving? We can all keep pointing to history. Absolute joke. Show restraint. The only person who needs to show restraint and shut up is Netanyahu. So as we speak, as we are here, Coffee Moaning will be coming later. I wanted Coffee Moaning on Friday to be, that's our regular daily kind of newsy, topicy kind of chat. I wanted it to be not sort of thread through with this news and with all this information. And this, but you know, we've had to talk about this. So I'm sure there will be updates. I'm not too sure what the time of impact is likely to be for the drones. If it's like the last attack, it will be followed by ballistic missiles. Iran have threatened. Why did Israel give Gaza back to the Arab Muslims for peace? Why did they give the Palestinian Strip to Gaza Authority for peace? They don't hate Muslims. If October the 7th was a genocide, you can't have it both ways, Luna loves Lucky. If October the 7th, let's just do it on sheer numbers. If October the 7th was a genocide, then by your own definitions, we've had an even bigger genocide. We don't want to get sort of like competitive about genocides. But do you understand, Luna loves Lucky? With over 55,000 confirmed dead and probably 180,000 dead, you can't say that what happened on October the 7th is a genocide and everything that's happened since isn't. Otherwise, you're deluded. You can't, just on pure numericals. And also go to Keir Starmer's definition of a genocide in the Balkan Serb-Croat war, because his definition of a genocide there could be applied in a sense to October the 7th, but would definitely be applied to Gaza. I'm just checking for any other clip updates, just to make sure there aren't any. Iran fires more than 100 drones at Israel in retaliation for attacks on nuclear strikes. Israel's UN ambassador says the decision to strike Iran was an independent Israeli decision. So there we go. That's where we're at. So we will see you again, undoubtedly see you again later this morning, certainly for Coffee Moaning, and hopefully we might be able to have a distraction there. But if this keeps kicking off in the way that it perhaps is, anti-Semitic means anti-Jewish. Alison Yu, anti-Israel. You're trying to trot out the same tired equivalents. Everyone in the world is wise to this. Anti-Israel is not anti-Semitic and it's not anti-Jewish. Okay? No one's anti-Semitic. I'm not. We're not. No one is. Many of our friends are Jewish. Many of those on the marches against Israel are Jewish. It is anti-Israel. Israel is the most dangerous nation on the planet. Okay? Luna Loves Lucky. You're not playing devil's advocate. You know you're not. Okay, anyway, come again next time Luna Loves Lucky and we can play devil's advocate again. Mark, you're not following the conversation. Oh, Alison, right, I've got to get rid of you. You're doing my head in. You're like a school teacher, like so many defenders of Israel, school teacher who can't be asked questions. Thank you, Fashion City Metaverse. Anti-Israel is not anti-Semitic. Okay, as I say, we will be back. We will be back with further updates. I'm sure at the moment that Iran impacts Israel, we will watch the entire press pivot around and say that poor old Israel is the victim. We're going to move straight to victimhood. Let's not forget who started this particular conflagration. Let's not forget who started this moment, who ignited this, because they've even given it a name. And you know they mean business when Israel gives it Operation Rising Lion. Okay, so be under no illusions. This was started by the biggest warmonger on the planet, Netanyahu. And remember, when Russia struck or got near to any of the nuclear sites in Ukraine, the world went absolutely apoplectic, as it should have done. Worried, fear. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Israel does it. Everyone needs to show restraint. There's not even a calling out. We should be calling in Israeli ambassadors. Every Western nation should be calling Israeli ambassadors to whoever calls them and giving them a dressing down and saying, what the fuck is going on? What are you doing over there? Okay. See you later. There will be a coffee moaning around 10 o'clock. And I'm sure we'll be definitely updating things there. All right, guys. Thanks for all of your comments. And thanks for the more reasonable and rational contributions in the chat.